Hello my beautiful blossoms and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila. If you are new here, we talk about makeup and art and entrepreneurship. Today is Wednesday, and on Wednesday I decided to do something called Whatever Wednesday, which is basically I talk about whatever I want, and hopefully you get something out of it. Today I am going to be talking about cancer and PTSD, and I've tried filming this video quite a few times in the past and I really had a hard time doing it, and I'm like super aware because I don't want to sound preachy or insensitive, or just really want to share my experience and hope that it will help someone out there who is going through something similar. It doesn't have to be cancer, obviously, but I feel like it is not really spoken about, the effect that going through a health trauma has on your mental well-being and your physical well-being and your reaction to things. Like PTSD is usually talked about when someone has a traumatic experience, like, God forbid somebody got hurt or robbed, or soldiers coming from a war, or things like that, where you see horrendous things. But I've noticed that very similar effects happen when you suffer through and you survive through an illness, a life-threatening illness. And it kind of sneaks up on you and affects every aspect of your life, or at least it does mine. And so I'm going to talk about that today with you, and hopefully bring some awareness to these feelings that I'm experiencing. I feel like once you shine light on something, it's just so much easier to deal with and to figure out how to treat it, live with it, and not suffer, or at least not suffer so much. So some of you, if you don't know, years ago I had cancer, and I just kind of powered through it, which after talking to several of other people who have gone through a similar experience, it's kind of like one of the ways of dealing with it. You don't quite think about what's happening. You just know that you have to survive. You have to keep going. You can't think about the worst that can happen. Especially if you have kids. Not that, those people who do not have children have their experiences any less traumatic, but I feel like for me, I always thought about my daughter and the fact that, she doesn't really have a lot of people to help her through life. It was definitely a motivator for me to just keep going. Like, what's next? Okay, what's next? What's next? Like the possibility of this going sideways, I didn't even entertain it. And I thought that that I dealt with it, that it was actually that way. But years down the line, I've discovered that it's not. It's just this fear of cancer coming back is so deep within my soul that I had no idea what kind of effect it was having on me until, I would get the usual anxiety that you would get when you would go for checkups. I get checked up every 6 months to make sure that my blood work is okay. And I have a great doctor. I'm at Sloan Kettering. They're amazing. And I would get anxious. Like my blood pressure would shoot up to a point where they're like, you need to be medicated? I'm like, no, my blood pressure is okay. It's just that I'm really, really scared and anxious. So that was like the first indicators for me that there's something was like laying dormant under there that I wasn't really facing. And I just didn't want to believe it. You know what I mean? Like I was like, it's over. It's done. I got through it. It had no effect on me. I'm strong. I'm independent. I can handle this. No problem. And yeah, those things are true in some ways, but let me tell you something. When you are scared and when you are in a place where you already know what mortality feels like, it's a very different reaction when you think things are heading in that direction again, because you know what you have to go through. You know what I mean? Like when I think about going through chemo again and surgeries and all of that other stuff, it's beyond horrifying. It's really scary. So I would have these little panic attacks before I would go see my doctor annually. But then I started having, like symptoms of other things. And again, I think, for a person who hasn't gone through something like this, it's just like, oh, okay, this hurts. Let me go check it out. Oh, it's probably nothing, But I feel like for someone who has gone through this ordeal and has long-lasting side effects, the PTSD, the post-traumatic stress thing, everything is so much more raw and amplified, and physically you feel it. This fear is like this, it has this physical manifestation that started to really scare me. I became super paranoid, like something would hurt, because with my first diagnosis, I ignored signs because I was so young, like I was 37, I think. And I was like, there's no way. I have no history. I feel great. There's no way this is anything serious. But again, there were signs, and if I didn't ignore them, I probably wouldn't have to go through all the things that I had to go through. So now I feel like I'm extra diligent about making sure that I check everything. And I think some people like go in the other direction. I know a friend of mine doesn't really, she just does her annual thing. The doctor says everything's fine. She just doesn't do anything extra. If she feels a pain, she's like, all right, it's normal. And that's fine. And then other people go in the other direction, like me, who are completely horrified of anything they feel that doesn't feel right, and let me tell you, Dr. Google is my worst enemy. Dr. Google has pretty much contributed to a lot of my panic attacks and anxiety about all of this, because you start looking at symptoms. You're like, oh, okay, so this hurts and that feels like this, and then it happens this often, and then if I put it all together, that means this, and I'm dying, and it's going to be, it's the end of the world. And listen, sometimes it could be, but I feel like if you don't have this PTSD, you don't go in that direction immediately, very quickly. There's like things in between. It could be other things, but for me, there's nothing in between. I immediately go to the worst case scenario and become completely paranoid. I feel like I can't control this from 0 to 180 feeling of basically thinking that you're going to die. Again, I didn't think it was anything really until I had this thing happen to me a few weeks ago, where I had my annual checkup, and a few things happened like in between. I don't want to get into it too much because I don't feel like it's really going to contribute to the story, but I've been having like these symptoms, right? And I'm like, all right, well, I immediately went to get them checked out. Let me tell you, I went here, I went there, I made sure I got tests, and everything came back okay. So I'm like, all right, it's nothing, right? It's nothing. And then I went to my oncologist about 2 weeks ago, and she did my blood work. And at the same time, I am at a place where I don't get my periods regularly anymore. It was done on purpose because of the kind of cancer that I had. They don't want my hormones being all over the place. I get them used to get them once a year, or like once every 6 months, whatever. And the last couple of months, it's been a lot more regular. I'm sorry I'm giving too much information, but I feel like it's part of this whole panic thing that I had. And it's bad, like to the point where I thought I would have to go to the emergency room because I was going to bleed out. So that happened, and other symptoms that I had. And then I do the blood test, and I always check, because they post it on your portal. So I go to the portal and I check it, and all of my cancer markers have doubled since my last one, especially the one for ovarian cancer. That's AC 125. And I literally thought I would have to be tied and committed. And it's, again, it's mostly on the inside. I'm not like one of those people who are going to show everything on like outside. I'm not going to like cry and pace and throw things. And it's all internal. It's all in there, So my heart rate has like doubled. My blood pressure went up. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I'm thinking I'm going on Dr. Google. I'm like, putting all this stuff in. I'm like, I have that. Yep, I have that. I have the bleeding. I have the pressure. I have this, and it's been going on for months. And now I have the explanation, and it has to be that. Like, this is the whole thing about PTSD. You know something's wrong, right? Like you're 100% sure you're sick. I was 100% sure I was going to die. Like, I had all the symptoms. My cancer markers went up, the bleeding, and my grandmother died from ovarian cancer. So all of those put together, I was already checking my will, making sure my daughter has somebody to take care of her. Thanks, Natalia. And it was full on panic mode. So it was horrifying. I called my friends who are my support in this, and they kind of talked me down from the ledge. And I keep thinking, the only thing I keep thinking is like, my kid is going to be left all alone. And that really is, I mean, not that I don't want to die, but my mind goes straight to who's going to take care of my child? Who's going to take care of my kid? Like, I want to see my daughter grow up, I went for the tests, and the waiting was, I wish that I could sleep throughout the whole thing. I tried really hard. I did. But I still had to, had to work, and I had to do what I had to do. And the results came in. I remember the nurse calling me, and I know Sloan's number on my phone. And I literally, my hands were shaking to the, like, how you see a person who's like drunk and they can't hold their drink anymore. They're like shaking. I don't know. That was a stupid analogy. My hands were shaking to the point where I couldn't hold the phone. I had to like put it on the speaker. And she said that everything's fine. There's nothing in there. Everything came back normal. Just go here and get it checked out. Like, they found like a polyp or something in there. But even though and I'm asking her, I keep having to hear those words from her. You don't have cancer. So I keep asking her, I'm like, okay, Christine, so that's not cancer, right? She's like, no, it's not. It's just, don't worry about it. You just get it checked out. I'm like, but why do I have to get checked out? And that's another thing with PTSD that I noticed, is that people tell you something and your brain just doesn't process it the same way anymore, because it has to be like black and white. It's good or it's bad. Like you're not really, or at least I'm not really hearing that it's fine, but it's like, it has to be, it's fine. There can't be any buts, because if there's a but, then there's some kind of doubt, and I can't have doubt. So at this point, I have realized that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to realize that you've gone through something really scary and dramatic, and you need help. My friend told me something, and it really stuck with me. She said, you're getting older, like all of us are, and things are going to start changing in your body, and you cannot panic like that every single time. You cannot put yourself through that kind of stress, because let me tell you, this stress will cause more damage than other things. So I have decided to seek out some counseling for PTSD, and searching right now. Haven't really found anybody that I like. But if you know somebody, and a lot of counseling is done virtually right now, so I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, that feeling, not so good. I kept fighting the realization, and I didn't want to admit it to myself. I didn't want to say, yes, something's up, because I feel like saying like, yes, can't handle this. You're weak, and you can't control yourself, and you're supposed to, it's been years, girl, grow up. It's fine. That's what I keep carrying in my head. But, it's not fine. And it has nothing to do with growing up or being strong. So my message is, don't feel ashamed if you feel weak and you need help. And don't feel bad that you need someone to talk to years after going through a traumatic experience. Because sometimes I feel like that shit doesn't manifest itself until later on, because it's almost like you have this anticipation that things have gone wrong, have been okay for so long. Now you're almost expecting the other shoe to drop. It's been years since my last diagnosis. It's been 2014, I believe. So it's been a while, but I feel like it's about time some shit went down. Something went wrong. Yeah, so that's my message. PTSD is real. Having threatening experience that has to do with your health totally causes this in you. And it's not just for people who are in wars or, car accidents. It's for whenever you felt your life was threatened. And I did a lot of research on this, and I recorded a video about it earlier, a few months back, and it just sucked because I didn't want to talk about myself. I was like, nobody wants to hear about this from me, you know? I just kind of did research on statistics and when it happens and who suffers from it. And then I listened to it. My friend edited it for me, and I was like, this does not speak to people at all. This is just preaching. So I hope this comes across a little bit more open. I really want to make sure that people don't suffer through this, especially, you know, I feel like you live your life and you forget that you have like feelings, you know, you just kind of shove them all so deep inside, and then they come out when something dramatic happens, like it did with me. So get help, get counseling, have friends who support you, and, you know, let's not stigmatize this BS, because it's so easy to fall into that. That's it. That's my story. I hope that it is something that'll help you. At least one person. If it'll help at least one person, I feel like my job is done, you know? And I hope that it encourages someone to seek out support. Support is okay. It's okay to need help. It doesn't make you someone weak or someone who, you know, can't handle their life, because we can. We need a little bit of help sometimes. So I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are. I hope you are feeling good. And if you are not, do what you have to do to make yourself feel better. Get help professionally. I can't, you know, have to stop saying that, but it's important. So thank you for listening to my sob story, and see you in my next one.